Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Today we're discussing a late 2020 launch for the 2021 model year, made in 100 pieces in white gold from Audemars Piguet. This is the Royal Oak Chronograph, but it's the Royal Oak Chronograph 38mm, the 26317BC. So in 2019, Audemars Piguet was all about the code 1159, but they had an insurance policy in the form of a bumper crop of cool new Royal Oaks in case the dress watch wasn't a hit. Well, spoiler alert, the dress watch wasn't a hit. Fortunately, the arrival that year of the 38mm Royal Oak Chronograph righted a wrong that started back in 2012 when the traditional 39mm Royal Oak Chrono was replaced by a much larger 41. So this is a 38 designed for fans of the original size. It is unisex viable, but it's got a bigger presence on the wrist than its 38mm dimension would suggest. So 38 in diameter, it's 10.9 millimeters thick. From lug to lug, if we just include the case, it's 48 millimeters. If we include the end link on each side, the total rigid distance across the wrist is a fairly substantial 50.1. Now this is a 100-piece limited edition here, and the example on my wrist was sold in 2020. It's a very comfortable watch. It's actually a beautiful match for my shirt. That was not planned. But on my wrist, you can see this looks more like a 40, to be perfectly honest. It does not seem 38. And that's always the case with Royal Oaks on bracelets, offshores too. You could see down the barrel the fit of the watch, and then you can see the cuff shot, proving that it is quite a thin watch with a sloped bezel. It will slide underneath the dress cuff. One of the few Royal Oaks that I can describe as truly unisex, at least in the modern era. They all used to be a lot smaller. The watch is very massive. The quality of the bracelet, the clasp, and the solidity of the case, especially the fact that this one has a solid case back, it feels very heavy for its size. Really, if you believe that your luxury watch should feel its price, this watch is for you. The bracelet, the case, the bezel, look at the intricacy of the finishing. All manual. Look at the break between satin and polish. Look how sharp. This watch has never seen a refinisher's wheel. And this is what you pay for when you get a Royal Oak. Perfect faceting between satin and polish with razor clean breaks. Removable links fixed by screws, vertical satination outboard, longitudinal satination on the top, the ends of the intermediate links polished, a hairline bevel that continues all the way down the shoulders of the links, tapering down to the clasp. When Gerald Genta designed the first Royal Oak in 1972, he considered himself first and foremost a designer of not dress watches and not sports watches, but jewelry. And so he wanted to create a bracelet that a man could wear that just happened to have a timepiece attached. And so it happened. The Royal Oak was born as an integrated bracelet that happens to include a timepiece. Double folding clasp, you can see internally media blasted and satinated, a sequential close, one side before the other. The logo closes second, twin trigger release so it will stay closed. And then we have a crown profile with shoulders for the chronograph pushers, but they're not actually screw downs. So you can use the chronograph anytime you like. You don't have to thread those out. The crown is a screw down, however, and the 50-meter water resistance rating is suitable for surface swimming because of the presence of the screw down crown. Now, other things I should mention, this watch does not feature a hacking function because of the Frederic Piguet base, but it does feature a quick set, and I appreciate that the date disc is the same color as the dial. This combination of white gold and the ice blue dial is what makes the 100-piece limited edition special. The rounded octagonal bezel of the Royal Oak, originally inspired by a vintage diving helmet, and then these hexagonal bolts, and they are bolts, they're not screws. They are made of white gold, and they are aligned all the way around. Take a look at the crown profile. You can see polishing and satin finish on the outer face of the crown. Little bits of attention to detail. On the bezel, you have the flank in satin. You have the very slightly expressed bezel gasket as a functional but also aesthetic part of the watch. The rounded and polished slope of the bezel and then vertical satination on top. The dial, this is a Grand Patisserie. It is the large hobnail. The petite is the one you find on a jumbo, and the mega tapisserie is the one you find on a offshore, but the one on the offshore is stamped. This is still cut on a pantograph, so if you get really close, you can see how the ancient mimicry engine works in circles and cuts thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands of little textural details across the hobnails and between them. It's not just the hobnails themselves, it's an incredibly nuanced disc made the old-fashioned way. And since about 2012, done in-house at AP. Logo, Hands and indices, white gold to prevent oxidation and tarnishing over time. And then we've got enough lume that you can easily read the watch in the dark, with slightly darker blue tracks for the registers, and then an azurage or concentric pattern inside each of them. On the case back, I mentioned it's solid. AP generally doesn't include a display case back on customer calibers. This is a Frederic Piguet 1185, doing business as Audemars Piguet. I think they call it the, I want to say F385 or something like that, or the AP caliber 385. So it's a unidirectional automatic winding integrated ultra-thin column wheel vertical clutch chronograph movement with unidirectional winding, a 40-hour power reserve, 37 joules, 5-position adjustment, and the quick set date. It's only about 5.5, 5.6 millimeters thick, and it's a true high horology piece that historically featured on the original Royal Oak chronographs, but also on the Vacheron Constantin overseas chronographs, the first 2 generations, and many Blancpain and Breguet timepieces. A true high horology movement for a high horology watch. Nicely decorated, though, with the solid case back. You'll have to take my word. One nice feature about the solid case back is that being made of gold and not sapphire, it adds a lot of value and weight to the watch, which I love. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.